Happy Sunday, apprentices. So have you ever done something you love so much that when it doesn't love you back, you start to hate it? That's what's next on today's show. Trading Forex or any other financial instrument carries substantial risk. The topics discussed on this show are the views of the host and the producers only. You should consult with your financial planner before investing in Forex or any other financial instrument. Don't be a dumbass.
Welcome to Day Trading Plumber, episode 59. I'm Matt Simpson, and I am bummed out.
Why are you bummed out?
We lost Eddie Van Halen, dude, on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough week. I know you're a big classic rock fan.
I'm a big fan of great music.
Van Halen was really good music.
Here's the thing about Van Halen. Instant access to everybody. My harder stuff that I love isn't for everybody. I get it.
Right.
Thrash music, speed metal.
Aborted fetus.
Anything that came from Sabbath, I get it. Your shit, not for everybody.
No.
It's just...
I wouldn't even call it my shit. It's just, I DJ'd for a small period of time in my life, like 2004. And, when you actually DJ and you're in that club scene, you get a sense of the talent it takes to make the music, and you get ear for it. And yeah, it's not for everyone, but it's not the only music I listen to. I like to listen to it when I work out and study.
You and Pauly D.
He's not a real DJ, dude.
To answer your question, you have 3 singers because Van Halen's effectively over. They are done.
They are done.
No, nobody's replacing Eddie
Right.
Halen. You have David Lee Roth.
The first lead singer, correct?
Correct.
Might as well jump.
And then you have Sammy Hagar.
Okay.
And
That's kind of when they lost a lot of their fans.
Well, hold on. I'm going to break it down.
Okay.
And we'll get to trading. And then you have Gary Sharon, who did a little stint.
Gary Sharon.
David Lee Roth, widely considered to be the front man after a certain somebody from Led Zeppelin.
Robert Plant.
Correct. He brought you to the party, and he got everybody together, and you got the girl. That was David Lee Roth's entire platform. And then you have Sammy Hagar, who, once you had the girl, taught you how to love the girl and to keep her. And those are the 2 phases of Van Halen.
You put a lot of thought in this.
Put a lot of thought. This is well-known stuff. I'm not breaking any new ground. Did you bag an antelope this year?
We did get an antelope. I personally did not get one. I didn't have a tag, but the group I was hunting with had antelope tag and 2 cow tags, but the cow tags are landowner tags, so they go until December. We didn't see any elk, and we were specifically, hunting antelope. And, we were on private land. It's pretty easy compared to, public land bull elk hunting, where you hike 6-7 miles in to get away from all the hunters. You go where everyone's too lazy to go. So that's a lot of work. And then, you're in your spot by the time the sun comes up for elk hunting. Antelope, they move around all day. I mean, this was one of those hunting trips where you could get up, you can make your biscuits and gravy, maybe drink a few beers before the day gets started, and then, go hiking out, sit on a top of a rock or a hump, and you can glass for miles and kind of just see the antelope coming into you. Because antelope hunting, you got to be a good shot at a far distance. I mean, 600 yards is a really good shot, and that's pretty typical for antelope hunting. I mean, our listeners probably sit there, when have I seen an antelope? you're on the highway and you see him about 600 yards in a cornfield. Where we were hunting, it was a little hilly, not a lot of trees. So you could get up high, get the high ground and glass really far out. And you see the antelope just running into an area where you could shoot him, and there he is.
Am I getting any jerky this year?
The meat was split up amongst everyone else. I didn't get any.
Okay.
But when he makes his jerky, I'll get a bag of it.
Thank you.
We'll eat it on the show.
You also appeared on Ghost Squawk this week.
Ghost Squawk?
Well, you recorded today.
I did a guest recording with those guys. Great guys. I believe they're in Canada. They are in all asset classes, not just Forex. They teach and do live trading, which I've thought about doing, but it's got to be boring content, right? Because to trade correctly, it's kind of like the hurry up and wait. Kind of like hunting. You hurry up, you get in your spot, and then there's a lot of glassing and being quiet and not clearing your throat, which I have a really hard time doing. Or the snacks you pack, you don't want to bring really loud rapper. Live trading with a group of people who are trying to learn how to trade, it's tough because, how do you fill the space between taking trades, especially like what we talked about, his style trading, maybe 3 trades a week. So could you imagine watching him live trade the U.S. session every day? And he's like, yep, no setups today. Glad you tuned in for 3 hours.
Is he swing trading then?
Yes, more swings. He was telling me he day trades, but might only get 3 setups a week. So he's in and out of the trade in the same session. However, doesn't mean he's taking a trade. And quite frankly, that some of the best setups are that selective. And we've talked about all the time, one of the most common mistakes traders and new traders do is over trading. Right? They tend to gravitate towards setups that happen all the time, because remember what we've talked about many times before, everything else we do in our careers, when you think of a job or work, you have to do a lot of it. And when you get behind, you work harder. And when you want to produce for your boss to get a raise, you work extra hours and you work harder. You take on more tasks. In trading, that just gets you in trouble, because the best you can have is something that's highly probable and has a decent win percentage. But there's a lot more things that go into it. What's the risk to reward setup on those trades? If you have a really high win percentage and a really big risk to reward, the unicorn type scenario, you're probably not going to get a lot of setups. It's probably not going to happen very often.
When does that episode air?
I believe it goes on Thursday today, because we record on Thursday and we drop ours new episodes on Sunday. We recorded Tuesday, so I think it drops today.
I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes. They definitely want to collaborate later. I know our show is not a show where we interview people, but maybe we'll throw a few of those in, surprise some of our loyal listeners out there. How many downloads have we breaking out? We're close to 30,000, right?
We're approaching it.
30,000. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk that?
Well, you look like shit. You look like you feel like shit.
Yeah, I'm having a very tough time, right? It's no secret. I recently went through a divorce, which is a life-changing event. I recently basically re-scripted my whole trading DNA from primarily a robotic swing trader for a greater part, pretty much the majority of my trading career. And recently in COVID, decided I wanted to try an experiment where I teach myself and create some day trading scalping strategies that I could trade in the session. I mean, we've talked about it. I want a trading system where I could trade the beginning of a session, put those trades on, and generally be out of those trades within that same 24-hour period. Something that has a good risk to reward ratio and a decent win percentage that would match up. And I've spent weeks designing that system, and back tested really well. It replay traded really well. And every time I go over these sessions, every day, just to add to that back testing and forward testing, it follows all of the back testing results. However, soon as I put $50,000 into an account, live trade, all of those emotional things that hit us traders hit me hard. And I found myself over trading. I found myself moving my stop loss. I found myself doubling down and switching the play, calling audibles in the middle of the trade, and just basically tormented myself to the point where I recognize, because I've been doing this long enough, I recognize when I put a trade on and I have such negative energy, it's just not going to work out. Because when you enter a trade and you're not confident in yourself anymore as the trader, that you're going to do the right thing when you need to do it, just pull the plug, because I know where this goes. And I probably went a little too far this time, and I gouged my $50,000 account down to $36,000 in just 2 weeks. And, I just needed to reset. And there's a lot of things going on personally with me. I'm over the divorce, or at least feel like I am, but I'm having issues being so isolated.
Has Jocko helped?
Jocko has helped, but I'm starving for interaction with people, problems to solve. I mean, my whole professional career, all the things that most of you probably hate about your job, that I hated, right? When someone could come in and change your whole day, staff meetings, job reviews, I'm starting to miss. And then you start to go, well, I want the good parts of it, but I don't want the bad parts of it.
I understand that completely. When I was implementing software at the last company, I was across the street. It was more for a space issue than it was, let's just isolate them. But
that's how it turned out.
Right. What happened was I would find excuses to go get more coffee, because the guys who were coming across the street aren't having a level of business conversation that I desired. We weren't talking strategy. They weren't talking sales figures. They were just coming over to bitch on the way to the warehouse, which isn't interesting to me. I did that when I worked in a warehouse. So I would go across the street, and I couldn't get them to, they weren't interested in what I was doing for the company. And it was weird. Anyway, I leave and I go back to being a purchasing agent. And I immediately recognize that I missed the violence of construction, of people screwing up, of doing really
panic POs.
Correct. Doing really good work, and my work mattering instantly. Not work mattering in 2 years that people don't understand, but work that matters instantly. I missed it, so I get it. I missed running my mouth, even though I didn't know I was running my mouth, because that's just the way that I am.
Yeah, I mean, I
miss dressing people down.
Yeah,
and picking them up,
just
and teaching them. I missed all that.
I didn't realize how much I enjoyed the chaos and how much it pushed me. Like I'm starting to feel like an idiot. Like when I have to write an email, because I've always struggled writing anyways. It's always going to be a struggle for me. But when you're forced to do it day in and day out and articulate yourself in words, to the stakeholder, the owner of the hotel, or you got to present a budget and you got to write a narrative of why. When you're forced to do that, day in and day out, it's not such a mundane task. It was a pain in the ass. But now that I don't communicate through email very often, and I don't type very often, but when I do, it's like, it's almost like you forgot to tie your shoes.
Is it just another chore?
Yeah, it's a chore. And then you start to go, man, I've gotten really lazy. Right? I still get up early. I still come into my office and I work. But I will tell you, I way underestimated creating a business, trying to market that business, trying to remove friction, from interested customer to paid service. I'm never happy enough with the product. So I'm always wanting to change it, or it's evolving, right? I learned a new strategy, but now I got to reshoot a 2-hour video to put the strategy in. It's just, I don't find the sense of pride I used to find with being in a room of 400 plumbers and leading the charge and getting shit done, right? And there's nothing more gratifying than you show up and it's a dirt parking lot, and when you leave, it's a 50-story hotel. Now, that took 3 years, but there's all those little battles in between. So, I'm finding myself kind of going senile during the day, and it's affecting my trading, or my piss poor trading is also affecting my attitude with the whole idea of, there's some days where it's like, dude, I'm not trading well. I'm selling signals. That's not going well because people are copying my bad trades. I've just finished my first master course, which I think that went really well, but I'm not motivated to go find more people to take it because the product needs refining, and I don't have the motivation right now to refine the product. So it's like this perpetual circle, and it's like almost like the advertising world knows exactly where I'm at because my phone's listening to me or something. So then every time I open social media, I'm just drowned with, are you tired of running a business that, it's just like, it's working, but I can't seem to plug myself into that.
It's working on you,
Yeah,
not for you.
On me, not for me. It's almost like trading has become whiskey or tequila, right?
What was that second alcohol?
Tequila. There's people that love tequila. I'm not one of them. However, I'll take a shot or two. I could enjoy a good tequila. However, if you indulge in it too much, you end up hating it, right? And tequila is that alcohol that everyone remembers when they took it too far and it just hurt them. Well, trading is a lot like a really fine alcohol. If you respect it and you taste it and you enjoy it, it's one of the best things ever. But if you overindulge in it, right? Like I felt like I rushed myself into this live trading, re-scripting my whole trading DNA into a day trader and doing what I thought was plenty of hours of back testing and forward testing and then demo trading it, and then not respecting the emotional side once you put live money into it. And don't get me wrong, I put a lot of pressure on myself because, when you share your MyFX book with all of your followers and you basically throw yourself out there, now, whether anyone's watching you or you have this in your head, thousands of people are watching every trade I take. That's a little added pressure. And then, I'm trying to kind of rebuild myself after moving, getting divorced, losing half my capital. So I have a little bit of, revenge. I need to get back. You put all that together and, trading a new system, it just emotionally took me on a roller coaster. So I had to pull the plug this week. I had to say, no trades. I'm just going to get away from the charts. I'm going to reset. I reread Mark Douglas's Trading in the Zone, which always seems to pull me back in and gives me like a plan psychologically and emotionally to get reset again to trade well. Because It's just when you find yourself in that mode, because it just seems like one of the things he says in that book, when you take a trade or when you take a loss, if you register that as pain, which I am right now, if that experience is painful, whether you know it, it's consciously or subconsciously know it, you're going to do everything you can to avoid it. And in trading, that means soon as the price starts moving against you, you're going to make bad decisions, or you're going to double down to get back to remove that pain. The way he puts it in that book, you got to get to a point where when you put a trade on, if it's a loss, it's just part of the plan, and you don't register it as pain. You have to get yourself to that where losses are part of the game. One of the best ways I could explain it is, as a plumber, would you take on a side job, or if you own your own plumbing business, when you get a job, would you buy that material? Is that a painful experience for you? No, because you already accepted the fact when you took on that project, you accepted that you are going to have to spend some money on material to do the job. And then when you get paid for the job, you win, right? It made money. What's so funny about trading is when you take the loss that's part of the cost of doing business, we register as pain. And when you find yourself in that mode, right, it's almost like, could a plumbing company be successful if, hey, we got the project, we need to spend about $30,000 on the first, the underground material to do the first phase of the job before you could bill for it. And, I'm a loser. It's so funny how in trading, that's when you're in the wrong mindset and you take that loss and you register it. It's as simple as you just bought the material to do the job. Because in trading, your job costs are your losses. When people go revenue versus profit, right? Pretty simple concept. If you make $500,000 in revenue and your profit's $250,000, you have a 50% margin. While in trading, in that business, your losses are that cost. So when you if you win 60% of your trades, that the 40% you lost is your operating costs. And that's where you have to get as a trader. Every little trade you take, if it's a loss, it's part of the system. And the hard part is you have to trust the trading strategies you're using, your system, to the point where you know it frontward and backward. It's just like when we were working for, large mechanical contractors. There's a time period where we pretty much knew exactly what the margins were on every job. We didn't have to worry about it anymore. It was like, we're going to make 30% margin on every job. So just get the bigger the job, 30% margins. Then, we kind of outgrew. We lost some key people. We stretched management. And then the system got messed up. We started getting zero margin jobs.
That's called buying work.
Right. We started taking riskier jobs. I said this in the Go Squawk interview. The analogy I used was, as a plumber, and we were talking about risk, right? Risk to reward. And I go, imagine you own a plumbing company and two general contractors come to you with two different opportunities. You only have the manpower resources to do one. Okay.
The owner hires the general contractor and the general contractor hires the mechanical company.
Yes. So you're a sub to the general contractor and you own this plumbing company. You're presented two projects. One is a project you've done 100 times before. You could already visualize who you're going to put on the job. It's nothing new.
What purchasing agent you want to see?
The materials are materials you've always used before. You know your men. You know they can perform it. You know this type of job you make 30% margin on. You know your vendors have that material because it's it's everyday material, and it's cookie cutter. Then the other job has a new material you've never used. Not sure who to buy it from. Not sure. You got to do special training. It's got this really weird design that all the walls are angled. And as a plumber, trying to fit plumbing in angled walls, it's going to be difficult, right? I remember doing an art museum in Denver where every wall was pitched and angled. And the architect won all kinds of awards of being innovative. But when it came to mechanical, you're like, dude, there's no wall that stacks. They're all angled. This is going to be the worst plumbing nightmare ever. And then try to fit ductwork into angled ceilings. So you're presented these two jobs. As an owner, you're going to go, well, that one's way more risky. It's just like when you're staring at two trades. You got to know where you're good, and you got to know what's too risky. And if you haven't practiced, you haven't performed, and you haven't put together that trading playbook and your system, you're not going to know which job is riskier or which trade is riskier. And, it's a no-brainer in the real world. Why would I do the water heater in the crawl space for the same amount of money as one that's, a trailer house usually has them out in their own little closet door, could basically back the truck right up to the door. If they're the same money, I'm going to take the easy one all day long. So in trading, it's funny, people aren't that selective, or they haven't done the work enough to know which setup is the better one. But yeah, it's been a rough week. It's been a rough couple weeks. And, I know when it's time to just settle, take a chill pill.
I found an interesting article called I Spent 15 Years Studying Why People Hate Their Jobs. This is the top reason. And it's written by L.T. O'Donnell, posted on Inc.com, which is a pretty good website.
Inc.com.
Yeah, Inc.com. Like incorporated. Quote, I have worked with thousands of people on their career challenges, and one reason for job dissatisfaction stands out as the most common. It is called praise addiction. We've been trained to seek out incentives like good grades, stickers, trophies, and yes, praise. We like to be liked. More important, we like to be respected. We want people to be impressed with us. It gives us a temporary feeling of happiness. Do you think praise addiction is in your head right now?
Well, I think it's something I'm missing to relate that to trading. That's why it's so hard. For instance, you're trading a strategy that wins 30% of the time, but it has a 10-to-1 risk to reward ratio. You're going to make a lot of money trading that system. But a lot of people can't handle only winning 30% of the time. Right? We talked about it in baseball.
Frequency versus weight really bothers them?
Well, just like what you said. They're not getting praised very often. You're just getting hammered. Bam. That's why people that are highly successful people in the real world, if we're going to call the real world and trading world something different, they struggle in trading because they are highly successful at school, doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects. And then they get into trading, and then they realize how much, at least this is my perception, watching these people struggle, is they realize how much them being so successful persuades the environment around them. Right? For instance, doctors, when they're a highly successful doctor, people are always asking their opinions. They're always looking to them for leadership. People at the hospital are always asking, what do we do here? What do we do here? It just their demeanor or their character, they manipulate the environment around them. When you get into a trading environment, unless you are a institution trader or someone who just has an ungodly amount of money, you're not going to manipulate the market. You can't. It doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care how good of a public speaker you are. Going back to your praise addiction, these people have praise addiction, right? Because they're charismatic, that people like them. They go to their after hours smooth meeting and everyone gets their cocktail and surrounds them and wants to hear their stories. They're owning the room and being professional at it. I mean, Tony Robbins owns people pay $6,000 to sit in a room and just listen to him talk. And he loves the talk and he loves that energy he gets. And, he gets paid very well.
He has giant hands too.
And giant head. Put him on a chart where he can't manipulate and own the room. And all of a sudden he's no better than a high school kid wearing a hoodie who's just accepted the market as a boundaryless, all probability, and has worked out his emotions out of it and is more successful than Tony Robbins at trading. This is why so many people get burned in here. They get lured into the simplistic buy or sell. It's buy or sell. They just get tormented over the emotional roller coaster that goes through your head because we have this overwhelming drive into us to prove that we're right. And the markets just prove you wrong over and over, and it becomes your enemy. I mean, Mark Douglas says it best. When you register those losses as pain, you are going to subconsciously or consciously do everything you can to avoid it and just find yourself keep doing the same shit.
Do you think pain causes imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome? I think pain, if not dealt with correctly, manifests itself pretty bad. That's why revenge trading is so predominant in new traders. They take a loss. It's pain. One of the best examples is when new traders go on a string of winning. It just proves that having a positive mental attitude and not knowing the risks you're taking because they haven't experienced the pain. In Trading in the Zone, he uses the analogy, you take a child who hasn't experienced being around a dog, and its first experience with the dog is the dog runs up, licks his face, and all happy to see the kid. The kid's going to instantly go, that was fun. And he's going to like dogs. And you take a child, and his first experience with the dog is the dog comes up, bites his face, knocks him over, and causes pain. That child is going to go, I don't know about dogs. Now, it doesn't mean a child will hate dogs forever. But if every time his experience is pain, he's going to go, screw this. I'm never going to be around dogs again. And that child that had the great experience, he's going to run up to every dog until he gets bit. And then he's going to go, well, wait a minute. Trading's no different. When you jump into these charts and these trading and you get, let's just say, luck, or your experiences are pleasurable, it's just a matter of time before you're going to get that painful one. That's why I like to start out my students just out of the gate. Let's focus on not losing money first. Let's try to steer away from the euphoria you get when you make money. Because if we can just focus on not losing it and understanding the rules, like, okay, take the loss, take the small loss, take the small loss. Don't register as pain. It's just part of the path. So then early on, we're not looking at this, at a loss as a painful experience or a win as a totally euphoric experience. It's just part of the game. That's one of the hardest things to do as a trader, is just completely be robotic in your emotions. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know a lot of people go, oh, well, I could trade without emotions. I tell you, I've been trading 10 years and it comes back out of nowhere, right? When I completely re-scripted my whole trading strategy from a swing, robotic swing trader to I'm hitting the buttons and I'm watching price action. And part of my trading system is to watch price action, which is a variable. It's not so easy. It's not so easy to not register as pain. And when you take a couple shots to the nuts a few times, then it's hard to engage again. Like that's where I'm at now is like, the setup's there, the entry's there. I'm confident on the strategy for my back testing, but I no longer trust me as the trader to do the right thing when it comes.
Would switching to swing trading alleviate your pain from day trading?
It brings just different looks of it. I mean, swing trading, you're going to have less setups. Typically, you have a little bit more room for price. That's why, when you first start trading, you probably shouldn't look at anything below a 4-hour chart. You trade support and resistance off key levels. Things don't move as fast. Just watch a 1-minute chart and the thousands of emotions that go through.
Is that like when you're learning a sport, let's just say hockey. It seems so fast at first, but after a while, it starts to slow down and you're like, oh, I have the hang of this. My positioning is pretty good. And then you go and you look at the league above you and they're just screaming down the ice. Is it like that? Is that the 4-hour chart to the 15-minute chart to the 1-minute chart?
Swing trading to day trading.
Okay.
Now, that's why you got to condition yourself. And I felt like I had done that plenty because first you come up with an idea, a strategy, and you back test it. Is my hypothesis, what does it work? Then you go through the whole, oh, it didn't work this time. Do I need to refine it? And then you find yourself refining it every time you take a loss. And you go, oh, dude, losses are part of it. You're going to refine it so much trying to avoid every loss that it either doesn't ever take a trade or you're just being stupid because you're just, oh, well, this time it should be a 30 pip stop loss. And this time, eventually you got to land on a set of rules. So defined that you could make a robot to do it. That's kind of like my rule base. Could you make an EA of this system? If you can, it's probably a pretty good system. However, it's going to have a percentage of losses, just period. Otherwise, the unicorn strategy never goes in drawdown, never has a loss, and it's always winner, and you never have to go through the pain. Now, once you land on something that has a decent win percentage and a risk to reward that matches it, and you've proven it through back testing 1,000 times on whatever pair you're going to trade it in whatever session, if it's part of the system, then I replay trade it. So then you start to get some of the emotions of how fast the candles move. And then you start to go, is my system, is part of it, I enter a trade mid-candle, meaning it breaks a certain level, or because I would tell you, as the candle's forming, that's where a lot of emotions come into it.
Because you're willing it one direction or the other?
Yeah, or, it's almost there, it's almost there. I'm in. I try to make my day trading strategies around, I'm never making a mid-candle decision. So if I'm watching a 15-minute chart, I have to wait for that 15-minute candle to close. Mostly because when I'm replay trading and you just hit the next candle, that's how it is in that. So when I'm live trading, I want to match how I've replay traded or back tested as close as possible so I could get the same results. So once you get there, then you do 1,000 trades in replay trading to get some of the emotions. And you could mirror this, right? When the markets are closed or it's not in the session, replay trade. And then when you're live trading on a demo, now you got the full emotions, speed of the market, like what you're saying. Now you're playing football with the pros. And I think I've heard so many college, when they go from college to pro, that's the biggest difference is the speed of the game. And they're like, everyone is the fastest on earth. Quarterbacks are fast. And, college, still high level of play, but there's still, the guys that'll never make pro. Well, in pro, they're all pro, right? It's like when I went from high school wrestling to college wrestling.
Except for Paxton Lynch.
What? He's not pro?
Dude, he's playing video. He cried on the sidelines. What do you want from me?
Honestly, I haven't watched a football game this year. Yeah, now when you are demo trading the live market, you're getting even closer to the emotions. And I felt like I did enough of that process. I started seeing some decent consistency. I trusted myself to be able to do the right thing as a trader. And I completely relied on my historical confidence as a swing trader. Then I put 50 grand of live money in an account, and it was just like loss. Oh, big win, but it's not repeatable because I didn't really follow the rules, and I revenge traded and it worked in my favor one time. Right? So then you're like, all right. Then we talk about the real killer last Thursday when we were recording, when Trump announced he had COVID. I had a $4,000 winning trade on that I decided not to take profit mid recording. And by the time we were done recording, it was a $500 loss. And because I didn't want to accept that, I pulled the stop, went to bed, woke up, and it was a $3,000 loss. So
Shit.
That big of it, the $6,000, $7,000 turn is when I decided, all right, I'm not trading next week. I just completely emotionally destroyed myself. And now I need to punish myself, go back to the drawing board.
Is trading still exciting for you?
It is. It definitely is. I mean, it is what I do now for a living. But I have some voids I need to fill for trading to come back to be where it has been this whole time. Trading is definitely no longer a hobby for me. It's business. However, I'm starving for interaction with people. And, that's why I started LNFX, was to try to fill that void. I'm just not the guy that sits in my cubicle all day. Now, hopefully I can build LNFX, or we can one day, where we have some people in an office atmosphere and things to do. And, for me, there's lots to do, but, it's kind of like that movie Castaway.
Tom Hanks.
I wonder if when they wrote that movie, they're like, wait, he's isolated on an island the whole movie. Who's he going to talk to? Oh, let's put a volleyball in there.
Wilson.
Right? So I need like a Wilson, but it's not working. I need more than a Wilson. It's to the point where I'm actively searching for something to give me a reason to get out of the house. So, I'm trying to pick up some more consulting work. When I first quit my job, I had a lot of consulting opportunities in the hotel space for energy audits, for plumbing and mechanical forensics. Because let's just say every building out there is a prototype, and they all have plumbing and mechanical problems. And one of the hardest things for an owner or a building operator is to just hire a plumbing company. It's like hiring a fox to run the hen house. Hey, we got this weird knock and it's really annoying. I mean, the plumber's going to come in and be like, yeah, we got to replace all the pipe, dude. It's $200,000. Yeah, we sold them on that. So I try to be that liaison, and I do very well at it. But in the beginning, when I first quit, I go, this is what I'm running from. I don't want to go to Beaver Creek. This is why I trade. This is why I semi-retired myself. But now I've been removed from it for 2 years. I'm starving for that. Oh, you need me in a conference call? Yay. I get to talk to people.
Does all of this feel meaningless?
Well, I would tell you what's hard is to record a podcast about trading, to sell signals to people that are looking for, they're in the same place I am right now. They're looking for a boost of confidence, something to tell them they didn't get scammed in Forex. Because usually that's where it manifests. Because when we suck at something, a lot of us need something to blame it on other than ourselves. Because we don't want to damage our psyche. So someone scammed me. Or it was a bad job. I don't know how many times I heard that from a foreman or superintendent.
We were screwed from the start.
The bid was bad.
Estimating doesn't know what they're doing.
Right. And
purchasing missed something on equipment package.
My favorite one is, well, when you were handed the job and we broke it down, task by task, manpower to manpower,
and the turnover
hours to hours, right? Because process I put myself and everyone under me, we break that job down to per task and man hours. We compare that to the bid. And generally, you come up with a surplus of hours, right? You plan to have a rainy day, your rainy day fund. And, you logically go, okay, there's 200 sinks on this floor to set. Is it logical a 6-man crew can do it, one a week? What's the labor rate? What's the bid rate versus our goal rate? And it should be better, right? Because you have a little overhead costs to accommodate. Guy calls in sick, attrition. You break the whole job down before you even put a shovel in the ground. And what I used to find intriguing is, man, we're going to crush this job in the beginning, right? It's like, dude, I could probably do that with 2 people. But really what it comes down to is when you make that plan, it's usually based on a schedule or a plan that a GC or your customer, not customer, but who employed you gives you. The general contractor runs the master schedule. Your job is to communicate to them your needs, to be that efficient with your manpower and your material staging. And then once that plan's set, your job as a superintendent or foreman or whatever your job title is, you have to will the job to happen that way. And any drastic changes in workflow, we're going to do second floor first now, not first floor. That's a big change. And you got to go back to your plan and adjust and see how it affects you money-wise, hours-wise, manpower. Because let's just face it, your biggest commodity in construction is qualified manpower, especially as a plumber. You got to have so many licenses, and labor's your largest expense. You're in purchasing. If all of a sudden I've given you a game plan that, hey, we're going to release PO 1 first, and then on a Friday, well, just kidding, second floor. The GCs want to do second floor. It fucks everything up. So what I teach these young foremen is like, you got to do the homework and make the plan. But the point I'm trying to make is when we go through that exercise in the beginning, there's no big glaring holes. But then when it gets hard and they piss poor managed the job and shuffled manpower all around, let the GC bounce them all over the job. Yeah, we were doomed from the beginning. It was a bad bid. And the same thing happens in the trading world. People jump in. They don't want to spend any money on educating themselves. Like, for instance, I've taken a $14,000 hit. I'm not the only one who's done that, right? Lots of people. But usually the people are reaching out to me as a coach or a mentor and know I have paid services. They're like, well, I'm not going to spend $500 on a 23 hours of video content of proven strategies. You just spent 14 grand on being a banana head. And you probably should have spent $500 beforehand.
I saw a really interesting post this week from, I don't recall, a health and fitness guy I follow on Twitter. And he said, you'll spend $30 on one meal. Most of it's garbage. But you won't spend $30 on a book that will change the way that you approach your food.
Right.
I thought that was really a really good way to put that.
Yeah. And then, when you tell people that, you're sliding into you're selling me. Right. And that's where I have a problem personally, because I can sell the shit out of stuff I'm passionate about, or if it doesn't feel like. I've never been in the sales department, a mechanical contractor, but when you're a general superintendent or project manager on a job, you're selling all day long. I'm selling my plan. I'm selling the schedule revisions. I'm selling change orders. I'm selling to the engineer. You don't want to do that. It's going to end badly, and you're going to end up paying me more money to fix it later. You're selling all day long, and no matter what you're doing. But when you actually put the title salesman, and when it's like you have this person on a Zoom meeting who's interested in your products, and you're going, I got to sell them. When you put that pressure on it, it feels different. It's harder. When you put a trade on, and it needs the win to pay your car payment, it's different, and you got to get prepared for it. And it takes training, and it takes practice. And the best thing you can do is remove all of that stress. Like when I tell people to be a full-time trader, you have to have some form of consistency. And a lot of these things worked out, or at least try to have worked them out. And then you got to have a year's worth of your expenses saved up in a different, not in your risk capital, because all the pressures and things are going to change, and you're going to go through some losing periods. You're going to go through strings of losses. For instance, I took a big gouge out of my risk capital. Now, theoretically, with the system I'm trading, it's going to take me a couple weeks to get back, to break even. Now, if I had to live off that $50,000 like I've set out to try to do, is, because in the beginning of this project, it was like, can someone take 50 grand, trade a pretty simple system that is easily teachable, and if they could curb their emotions and do it right, can they make $10,000, $12,000 a month and still grow that account, cover their taxes, right? You're obviously going to pay taxes out of what you pay yourself, and then still grow that account. So next year you give yourself a little bit more raise, and do that consistently. That's what this project was set out to do. And in the first 3 weeks of this, I've basically narrowed down that risk capital for 50 to 36 grand. So now you're not going to pay yourself. I'm looking at end of October. If I can get my shit together, I'm looking at end of October being back to where I started. And so that's 2 months, no pay. And if I had to pay my mortgage out of it and had all that pressure, it would just encircum you with too much pressure that you're not going to trade well.
What was that word?
Encircum. Is that correct or no?
Do you know what a solecism is?
A solecism? No.
It's a word that you just make up and expect others to know.
I'm pretty sure our listeners know it's a made-up word, but they know what I was trying to say.
What can you do?
Solecism. That sounds like a made-up word.
What can you do to make yourself feel right?
Well, right now I'm going through what is going to get me back to being content. Because I don't feel content right now. I don't like my confidence level. I never realized how much I rely on others for my confidence than when I sit in my office alone for 2 years and miss, oh, good job today. Or, hey, I have this problem. Can you help me? And then you solve it. And you're like, ah. Oh. So I need to fill that void with something. And financially, I'm not bringing in as much revenue as my costs. Now, I've stacked up a lot of cash reserves, but that just eats away at your confidence because you're like, oh, well, I'm moving backwards now. I'm trying to fill both those voids with finding some sort of solution. I know I've talked about driving Uber and, taking what I make in Uber and investing it, but that's not an option for me. So, I'm trying to get involved with, some consulting work. I have these two friends of mine that are software guys, and they have this proprietary software where you can fly a drone and whatever it scans, it turns it into a CAD file. Well, they don't know construction. I know construction, and I can see a lot of uses for this. So I'm doing some business development work with them to try to see if I could partner with some construction companies to get us on a few sites, work with us, because they don't have a sellable product yet, or they think they do, but I was like, you don't, because you need to be able to tailor make that software and remove all those friction points. All the things that I'm frustrated with my own business. I'm going to try to be like, hey, fly this drone. Let's see what we can make out of it. And then I'll be like, oh, well, someone will buy that for $1,000. If, for instance, one of the first things I looking at with them is traffic control, the guys that put the cones. So I know you have to create a document to submit for a permit. So you have to place all these cones where you're going to put them and get a lane closure permit. Well, the insurance company that insures that project wants to know that shit's up every day. So they have to drive a dude down the road and he writes a paper. Yep, it's good. Well, the insurance has to just rely on that. Well, if you could fly a drone down and you could upload that print into the drone, it could tell you real time, nah, that one's not in the right spot. You just saved labor hours. And then now you have a real time photo that it's in the right spot. So those are the type of things I'm working on. That and the bidding process. You can fly a drone down, create the document, and bid it, right there. So, to wrap this up, everyone goes through periods where something they enjoy doing. I'm sure there's a bricklayer out there that loves laying brick. And then there's just a week where he's like, I don't want to lay brick no more. I know trading is such an emotional roller coaster if you let it be. And sometimes you got to step away, recalibrate, recharge, as my favorite guy on Instagram, Jocko Willink, has a awesome video called Good, where he's like, reload, recharge, and then get back after it. I'm going to get back after it, but I got a few things, physically, some voids I got to fill, and then get my confidence back up.
Thank you very much for listening. Please join us next week.
Over and out.
If you'd like to learn more about Clayton's signals, please visit www.allenfx.com. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram at OFPMatt.